Well, hello again. It's John Bona with the Story of Liberty. I will explain again in some detail why prosperity is generational. The good book says the counsel of the Lord stands forever. The plans of his heart from generation to generation. As we look for economic rules surrounding the promises of God's blessing and cursing, we see that they do not speak merely of the short term, but rather have far-reaching effects. God's economic blessings often follow family and national lines for generations. The Bible refers to this type of thinking and doctrine as covenantal. God concludes his recital of the blessings and curses with this statement: "These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the sons of Israel." So then the language of blessing and cursing is the language of the covenant. But let's ask, what is a covenant? What is this covenant? A biblical covenant is a solemn promise by God to do something for mankind, to bless us, to give us blessings. These covenants usually come with certain stipulations that people must keep if God will continue to bless them. If God's people refuse to obey him and keep the terms of the covenant, then they come under a covenant of curses. He removes the blessings. This is why Moses continually warns the people. So keep the words of this covenant to do them, that you may prosper in all that you do. You shall remember that you were slaves in the land of Egypt, and that the Lord God brought you out from there by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. To put these words of Moses in context, let's remember a little history. Moses wrote the book of Deuteronomy, from which these verses come. He wrote it after the nation of Israel had wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. When 40 years earlier, Israel escapes from Egypt, they rebel against the Lord, refusing to enter the land of Canaan God promised them. God judges Israel for their disobedience and lack of faith by causing them to wander in the desert wilderness for 40 years. In part, his judgment pronounces that no Israelite over 19 years of age at that time may enter the promised land. All the then adults in Israel are to die in the wilderness. Only the children are to enter the land of milk and honey. So when Moses speaks these words from Deuteronomy to Israel, the people of Israel, all the original adults who left Egypt already lie buried in the desert. The great majority of Israelites ever even saw that country. Yet when Moses addresses Israel entering the promised land, he speaks to them just as if they were all been slaves in Egypt. The Lord did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, with all those of us alive here today. The Lord spoke to you face to face at the mountain. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. From God's perspective, those Israelites who had never seen Egypt had been slaves there. In fact, in part, speaks of the power of generational character, a character not easily overcome. We gain insight into the mind of God as he clearly reveals his covenantal intention. While we might all too easily miss or undervalue it, the omniscient God, sees covenantal interconnectedness between generations. His covenantal order should inform our economic understanding. For God's blessings do not begin and end even with the single family unit. Rather, those blessings or curses continue for generations. In reality, it should inform our economic theories. It may not fit neatly into any popular economic model, but it describes the way the created order works. God blesses his people for 1,000 generations. Ezekiel 18 does tell us clearly that sins of the fathers are not punished on their children. Now, they are visited on the third and fourth generation because of the corrupt generation is going to lead to a corrupt generation and so forth. But God does not punish anyone for a sin that is not their own. Let's make that clear. The writer of Proverbs tells us, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. You know, this proverb highlights two truths concerning covenantal blessing and cursing. The first is that God carries forward covenantal blessings of economic prosperity by design to the next generation. The second is that divine providence uses the sinner, yes, the sinner, meaning the unrighteous, to store up wealth on behalf of the blessed of the covenant, who will eventually receive it. You know, this idea may tweak our sense of fairness, but it is an inexorable law of economics. It describes part of how the created order works. We demonstrate our war against this principle when we demand an endless orgy of covenantous confiscation, as we have across America seen over the past several decades. We can't expect success on the path toward national wealth if we continue to violate the basic principles of the created order. Rather, we must work and manage our financial affairs in coordination with the divine laws for prosperity. We can expect to achieve an accumulation of blessed wealth, but only under covenantal obedience to biblical truth. Thank you for joining us again at the Story of Liberty.